to infinity and beyond.
Hello everybody, it's Roger and James here from Infinity and Beyond, presented by DisKingdom.com and DisGaming.com. In this episode, we're going to list our top 10 worst Marvel games we've played. So it's not really going to be in any order. We're just kind of going to run through some of the things of what we remember. Because sometimes it's very easy remembering the very good stuff. Sometimes they're very bad, maybe not. Might not be bad at the time, but with history it's not so good. And some of them might just be plain awful. I mean, we've both brought up lists of all the games that are coming out. We actually spent probably 10 minutes just looking through the list and going, oh, that was good, rather than the opposite way around, because there's that many Marvel games.
Right, and a lot of these games that are on the list are also going to be Android, iOS games, which we may not have played because they came out back when Android, iOS gaming was still in its infancy. Also, there was just an entire glut of games during the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, early PlayStation era, which honestly I never even played. No. But the ones I did play, I remember because they were good. We're talking about like Maximum Carnage and the X-Men games.
Kingpin was a classic of mine that I remember had on the Sega CD. There's lots of Game Boy games. Some of these games I've kind of played like recently, like playing back. So I'm going to kind of throw like Daredevil on the Game Boy.
All right, let's start with Daredevil on the Game Boy.
So
I haven't played it, but
I had to pick a name. So that one there was based on the Ben Affleck movie, so that's pretty bad before. It's literally a side-scrolling game on the Game Boy Advance. It looks pretty bad. There's like no real special moves. It's just a punch and kick. Very, very basic. Compared to the Spider-Man ones, it was a flat-out movie tie-in. There was nothing really kind of, playing it back, like obviously years later, it was a bit like, okay, this is just nothing special here. There's just nothing, you've got Daredevil, but it's that thing of, now with Daredevil, the TV shows is a bit more higher, but obviously that movie bombed, so therefore the game represented that was not really that good anyway. So that was kind of like one of the games that I definitely picked up as kind of,
right.
As literally going down this list going, yeah, that was not a fun game.
Right, and I do want to point out, doing a more positive side on this one, is that just because the movie or television show or whatever isn't very good does not necessarily mean that the game will be bad. It just tends to be that way. But I would say the X-Men Origins Wolverine game is actually really good, even though that movie was awful. But that's more of an exception than a rule.
Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned Daredevil. I'm going to counter that with Howard the Duck, 1986. And also, this is, again, contradicting what I just said about there not always being bad. Played this on a Commodore 64, sorry. The movie was horrific. It's best to just pretend it never existed. The only Howard Duck that exists is Seth Green in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. And then the game came out, and it was not as horrific as the movie, but that's not a high bar. No. So it definitely deserves to be on this list, though. It was just a bad game.
I mean, I think, going back to the Commodore days, I mean, I was an Atari, friends had Commodores and Spectrums, because then it was a bit bigger over here, the Spectrum. And at the time, games were, they were either like really good or really bad. There was never really like much ground in between. And also, as a kid, is that thing of the movie franchises, you still only had a limited amount. So, buying games was not as easy to do. But yeah, Howard the Duck was not one that was on my list. Again, carry on.
No, I got to throw this one out there, though. Mom and Dad, you guys did a great job in picking out games when I was younger. We got, original Super Mario Brothers and Blades of Steel and stuff like that. How you could let 8 or 10-year-old me play Howard the Duck is you should have had CPS called on you. Just saying.
Yeah. See, my parents brought me an Atari 65XE with a cartridge with a cassette tape, because the guy in Curry's said that it was what everyone was buying, not realizing that I was the only one in my class with that, while everybody else had Commodore 64s and Spectrums. I was the only. So you go into the games cupboard in the bottom of the high street, and my section would be like 4 tapes at the bottom. So my Atari, that's probably why I have such an affinity for Atari games, because I had all their collections and stuff. But anyway, as I said, back from those days.
Back to the proper list.
Yeah, so I'm now going to pick some other games from that era, just in general, and kind of going to throw a game that I love, but I also don't like at the same time. And it's very, very popular. It's made loads of money. Contest of Champions. Okay.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one, actually.
I think it works. It's a really fun game. I wish it was on a controller and I could play it properly, because it every time I play it and I want to play it and I really like the style, but I get frustrated with the fact I can't buy the characters that I want. I can't control it as well as I want. You get the cooldown. It's like, it's such a cool version of, like, you know, the Marvel vs. Capcom game, and it always feels like it's just limited. There's that part of it being a mobile game which takes something that I just look at so much potential, and it never. I'm always disappointed, because I must have gone back to that game 15, 20 times over since it came out, and every time there's like a new character comes, I'll go in and check, and I play it, and I'm fighting, and I'm really enjoying it, and then I kind of remember of like, I am not good enough for the online battles, but also it feels so, you know, there's only so much you can do with tapping it, and also, you know, like Yondu came out last week. I want to go and buy or try, if I want him, I want to go get him now. This whole random loot thing just is very difficult unless you are right up to date with everything, and then you start getting duplicates. So the mobile part of it ruins the game for me.
I'm going to have to agree. I'm also going to throw Injustice 2 into this list. It's not a Marvel game, so it's not officially on the list. And it's debatable for us whether this really deserves a spot in the top 10 worst games, because it's, like you said, it's actually not a bad game. I just think it's on the wrong system, and I have to agree that, at least personally, trying to play active games on my phone without a controller, a proper controller, is just impossible. I can't. There's no tactile, like, reinforcement going on. I never swipe in the right places. I never tap in the right places to do what needs to be done. And it's just it's a button masher without buttons, and it's frustrating. This game on a console, even a DS, 3DS, or, you know, Switch in mobile mode or something, as long as I have the joystick, as long as I've got actual buttons to press, this would be a great game. I'd love to play this on the game, and it is a well-designed. It's got great graphics, got a good design to it for the phone. It's just hampered by that limitation of not getting any feedback when you do something. And a lot of times I'd move backwards when I meant to move forwards, or I'd be blocking when I meant to punch, and just not that fun. Not for me anyway, and not for you.
No. Okay, so I'm going to then jump to the PlayStation 2 era. And it's an easy one, this one. Again, and it kind of suffers from the thing I brought up first, was Fantastic Four.
The Fantastic Four is a gimme.
Yeah, I mean, but there's two. I mean, they could throw Rise of the Silver Surfer in there. That was just as bad.
Let's just throw them both. They're taking one spot.
Yeah, they just suffer from badly planned, badly made, just games that were done for licensing with not a lot of love. I mean, they had bad, you know, the fact that it was based on those Fox movies, you know. Thankfully, they didn't put us through another Fantastic Four game when the last movie came out. But there
wasn't anything to make a game out of.
No. Get to the end of the movie, there's a big thing in the middle and it blasts, and there we go. It's that situation of it. It's a poor movie tie-in. There's the jumping between the characters and stuff. You kind of got that, like, Diablo thing, but I think so many other games do it so much better. And it just, I don't know, it's that odd thing as well of only really playing as Thing and Torch was slightly fun, because Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman just don't make very fun playable characters to me.
Well, not entirely true in that case, because actually I found Invisible Woman in Marvel Heroes, the MMO, the one that just jumped over, and she's not in the PlayStation version because the Fantastic Four doesn't exist anymore, apparently. She's actually one of my favorite characters to play as in the game, because she's got a lot of fun moves. But this is not the game we're talking about. We're talking about Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, and they are both terrible games. And funnily enough, they were developed by two completely different publishers. One was Activision, one was 2K Games, and you guys both managed to screw it up.
Yes.
Congrats. That's impressive.
Okay, so what else have you got on your list?
I'm going to go with one here that I actually enjoyed playing, but I acknowledge is actually not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. That was X-Men Destiny, which came out for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 back in 2010 or 2011, one of those years. It was made by the same team that did Two Human, I think it was. It was one of those, we've got to make a bunch of money because we screwed up our own IP, and they rushed X-Men Destiny out, and it is... Man, it is a terrible title, but I had so much fun playing through it anyway because I just love the X-Men in general, but I can't recommend this game to anybody.
That's not one I've played.
$5. $5 in the bargain bin, you'll get your money's worth, but more than that, you are getting ripped off.
Yes.
Hardcore.
Yes, especially now as I'm like every week I'm trying to pick up like a retro old Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars game. So that kind of I picked up a lot of a lot of the cheap ones, probably to go begin with. There's a lot of so there are some really kind of naff ones there. So I'm going to throw in for my next choice.
What are we at now? 5?
We're at number 6.
6, okay.
I mean, 7 if we find a 4.
6.
Right. Marvel Battlegrounds for Disney Infinity 3.
Certainly one of the most disappointing.
One of the most disappointing playsets for the whole game. It was a short 20-minute kind of experience, maybe an hour if you want. You had 4 players that you could use all the characters. You could use them all. It was hyped up, and it was supposed to be, this great thing. They then changed it and put a variant figure that I didn't want. I didn't need another Captain America. He's one of my least favorite characters around. I just don't like him. Maybe it's not the whole America thing doesn't work for me in that same effect. So therefore, it doesn't.
You British jerk.
Yeah, exactly. But therefore you lose that connection with it. So therefore, that playset, I just remember being massively disappointed with it. When it was a lot of fun, and I think if you're on local co-op, it could be fun playing different ones. But there's a 1-player. I remember getting it, and I had all my figures out, and it just didn't work. It was fun, and it was a great playset, but it was very you've been hyping this up, and it got delayed, it got pushed back, it was, digital only, it wasn't on half the platforms. It just felt like, in hindsight, we knew why it was so bad was because they rushed it out, basically, because they made too many figures from the first game, and they needed to make a quick tie-up. It was a solid game, it just needed a lot more on it.
It needed at least several more story levels. It needed more depth to your local co-op options. It needed online battle mode, period. It had the potential to be a Power Stone game, which was a fantastic fighting game back on the Dreamcast. And you could see the form, starting where you were going to get that. But they, like you said, they rushed it out the door. And I think it wasn't even just they produced too many figures. I think at this point, when it came out, Disney was starting to lean on them, being like, you have to make more money or you're gone. And so they released it to get some money. It wasn't enough. The game was canceled very shortly thereafter. Man, this could have been a great playset. I know I was psyched for this playset, and it was just, it wasn't what it needed to be in any sense. Which is too bad. I still have thoughts of how great it could have been.
Right. Okay. So what else have you got on your list?
All right. Well, in the spirit of Fantastic Four, we got a twofer in that one. We're going to get a threefer in this one, and that is Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. All 3 games are terrible. Just
I've never played 1. I have got a couple, I think, on the PlayStation 2, I think, but away. I've not actually got around to playing them yet, but I think they were 99p.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, Iron Man 3 was only released as a mobile game. It was only on Android and iOS, but even there it failed. Iron Man 1 and 2 were out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Neither of them are worth ever touching, even as an artifact of the time. Just watch the movies instead. You'll get a far more satisfying experience. Doesn't matter. If someone gives you these games for free, use them as Frisbees. Like back in the day when we had, I don't know if you guys had them over there, but AOL used to send us free discs every week. Oh, Frisbee, man. They made great coasters. Yeah. I knew some people who would take those glass tables and they would, slide the discs under the table and it would create like a nice place setting or whatever. That is what your Iron Man 1 and 2 discs are for.
I keep
out.
meaning to pick up Iron Man 2, like a PlayStation 3 version. It's a slightly better version for it.
There is no slightly better. Do you want the slightly better version of Cancer? I mean, that's what we're looking at here.
On that note, let's move along. Right, okay. I've jumped a spot, so you've got to pick up a second one.
Oh, do I have to pick a second one? Well, let's see. In the same line, we could do Thor: God of Thunder. Based on, I believe the first Thor movie, it came around the same time, but it wasn't based on it. Not a god awful game. A truly god awful game. This is actually worse than any of the Iron Man games. This game was.
I think I picked it up for $2.99 on PlayStation 3 a couple of months ago, and it's in a big box next to me. It's all on the list of things to do. Of just like, and again, I think this is that thing, isn't it? Of like movie tie-ins. Of course, we've got such a bad reputation that if there is a really good one, and there are some really good ones, they've instantly got kind of like at a handicap with their hand tied, because when there is a bad one, there's just more of them.
Yeah, there's so many bad ones that they get overridden. The good ones get overridden. I already mentioned Wolverine, which was actually a very good tie-in. And one that I'll just mention here to help balance things out was Captain America Super Soldier. Not a great game, but much better than it had any right to be. Yeah, anybody who gets a chance to try out Captain America Super Soldier, it was on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. I have no idea how the Wii version is, so don't take my word on that one. But it's a great game, especially if you can pick it up for a couple bucks and you have a system that can run it. I don't think it's backwards compatible on the 360 right now.
Basically, but if it's backwards compatible, I pretty much buy anyway. But yeah, no, it's not.
If it goes backwards compatible, it's definitely one of those games that's worth trying out. It's not a very long game. If you're an achievement hunter, it's actually very easy to get the 1,000 for the Xbox 360, right? Yeah, you can get the full 1,000 pretty easily. But this is the bad game list. So avoid Thor: God of Thunder. I think even if you paid 3 pence or P for it, you got ripped off. So.
Right, so I'm going to throw another game in here that is kind of like the game I want to like, and the game I've tried on numerous occasions. And it's kind of a console game, but it's also a mobile game and PC game, is Marvel Puzzle Quest. It's this kind of weird one of it being, because of it being a mobile kind of game. I mean, I played a lot more of Dark Reign on the console because I did a review for it, and I'll be honest, I'd rather have that system, buy it for 15, 20 quid, have it outright and just play it. The Puyo Puyo Tetris kind of this year.
Right.
Or whatever. Buy a game, play it, and you can do what you want with it, and you've got the DLC. It wasn't. I enjoyed the Dark Reign version of it. The mobile version and the PC version, and again, there's new events, there's new things happening, and these kind of games to me, you pick up, and there's the click free to win. The battle mode of it is fun, but it doesn't really do very well for that kind of match free to win play of when I'm bored, or if I'm in a queue, or if it was this weird thing with it. I couldn't quite. It is a really good game, and it's very well done, and it's updated regularly, and there's constant updates to it, and there's a lot of love for it. But at the same time, can't quite it's almost like it's too overwhelming.
I think for me, Marvel Puzzle Quest, it's not a bad game, and I definitely enjoy it. The problem I have with it is the massive disparity in difficulty, because I find that I'm either in a position where I am just rolling through levels, just like no problem at all. I can make as many mistakes as I want, and I will destroy my opponent. We're talking about the AI here, of course, not humans. Or I can play a perfect game and just get rolled, completely destroyed, and I don't stand a chance against what I'm fighting. And there's no middle ground. I never played a battle in that game, and I played a fairly significant amount of it, where I felt like I earned that victory. It was hard fought, but I won. Or, man, I was so close to winning. I made one mistake and I lost, and that's totally my fault. I never had that feeling. It was either I am destroying everything I come across, or I'm at a wall and I cannot get past this no matter what I do.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing for me. Like I said, I wouldn't put Dark Reign on this list because I enjoy playing it. It's that kind of thing of the mobile version. Just again, it's that frustration point of view that makes it bad and never. Because if it was fun, I'd still play it. It might not be right, but something like Frozen Freefall or something like that is a little bit simpler, and obviously Marvel's version is a little bit more grown up and a little bit more at a different audience. But it's almost a little bit too tricky just to pick up and play. Do your 5 lives and move on to another game. But I almost have the thing of I want to like it, I don't want to play it. And that's that weird thing, and it leaves me frustrated, and that's that mobile thing. And I think this is where looking at our list, and I'm pretty sure I know what your last game's going to be on this list.
Do you?
I think so. It's that thing of movie tie-in and mobile, and it's pretty much kind of how it's this line's going down. Which I will not let you go to your last one.
I will actually be kind of surprised if you guess this, but maybe you will. I'm going to go with what's it called here? It is. Damn, I lost the name. It was the Avengers Connect game on the Xbox 360.
I thought you were going to go for Avengers Academy. That was where I thought.
You know what? I was saving Avengers Academy because there's going to be honorable mentions lists.
Yeah.
There are actually 2 honorable mentions that I was thinking of mentioning. Avengers Academy was one of them. But no, in this case, I'm going to talk about the Kinect Avengers game. And I don't think it was a bad game, but it was severely limited by the limitations of the Kinect. Because we're talking about the 360 Kinect, which was notoriously bad at picking up your movements, especially if you were doing forward and backwards movements, which the game required. It was a good idea for a game, but man, the Kinect just destroyed any of the fun factor for it. And I do feel bad for the developers because they had a losing battle the entire way through, but it just, for a game that I wanted to be good, it just wasn't. And I would say the same thing about, Kinect Star Wars or pretty much anything Kinect.
Yeah.
Heck, even Disneyland Kinect, where it's literally just a game of walking through Disneyland. It was just we could see a resurgent for these games with VR as VR becomes more advanced. But, we've talked about this many times, and VR is not going to be the next generation of gaming, but it could potentially carve out its own little niche the way Kinect never was able to. But yeah, I'm going to throw that one in there. Since you already spoiled the surprise, I do have 2 honorable mentions for the list. Avengers Academy, which I have spoken about many times, is actually a great game. But TinyCo, you guys can do things I can't talk about on this show because it's supposed to be kids rated.
Yeah.
With your monetization scheme, you've destroyed your own game with this, and I hate you guys for that because this was a great game. And I know people who still play it, and I see them posting oh, I just unlocked Mantis. I'm like, that's really cool, but I am not giving you even the minuscule amount of ad revenue that you get from this game.
I see. I remember the game coming out, and I thought, right, okay, as per usual, load it up, play it for a couple of days, and I remember going, I hate this. This is like Marvel High. 90210.
Right.
I didn't like the style. I didn't like the concept. There wasn't enough. It wasn't. I like action role playing kind of control a character, and it just wasn't what I liked. And I haven't touched a game in 3 years. It's nothing that's it.
Well, I mean,
I just don't like the whole way of the high school look. It just at least they went for something different. I'll give them credit.
I give him credit for doing something different. The story is fun. A lot of it's not even just the story. It's actually just the interactions between the characters. The dialogue's fantastic between guys.
Yeah, there's skip.
Yeah, and that's the game, is the dialogue and the interactions and just the humor in it. Because I obviously know it can't be the gameplay style, because the gameplay is functionally very similar to Disney Magic Kingdoms, and we talk about that game a lot as one that we enjoy playing. So obviously it's not that, and I totally get that it's not for everybody. And I'm not even going to be like, oh, you should try it out anyway, because no, screw you, TinyCo. You guys have destroyed your own game. Second honorable mention is actually going to be a pair of games, and this is the re-release of Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Again, Activision, screw you guys. This is not a $60 re-release. They're 10-year-old games that you did nothing to upgrade them to the modern console, and you want modern prices for them. No. If you'd released them at $15 a pop with like a $20 or $25 bundle to get the two, 100% behind it, even with the technical problems they had at the launch of the game, because they did patch those up. This is not a $60 or $80 purchase, though. These games are 10 years old.
Yeah. See, for me, I really enjoyed those games because I hadn't played them the first time round. So when I played them on the place, I felt like for a £20 game, I was getting my value because I played through for the first time. But there was a lot of issues with it, and I think that it makes sense of why that happened.
Yeah, and for someone who had never played them before, I think there is a lot of value to them. But for people that they were trying to get back to play them again, to play them again for the first time or whatever, charging full price for games that you put minimum effort into is really just a slap in the face by Activision. Now, having said that, if you guys, Activision or Square or anybody, releases Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, I will sign up.
Yes.
I will give you my money. As long as it doesn't have the technical problems that these ones had at launch for the re-releases, I will give you my money. Because these games are great. I love them.
Right. On that note, guys, we would love to know your additions. What games would you put on the list? Which ones don't you agree with? Because I'm sure there's probably some games that you liked that you didn't like. Let us know in the comments below, or get in touch with us on all the different social medias. You can find James over at heroiclegacy.com. You can also find us over at DisKingdom.com and DisGaming.com. And this month we are giving away Cars Free Driven to Win. So if you're interested in that game, you'll want to check out our competition that we're giving away over there. On that note, guys, hit that subscribe button, and also you can give us any information on our audio platforms as well. On that note, guys, thank you very much for watching. See you guys soon. Laters.
Later. We do actually